I'm going to show you how you can use black in your painting to make more colorful mixtures. That seems counterintuitive, and in fact, a lot of art instructors recommend students remove black from their palette altogether. It's not bad advice, it's just not always well explained. If you'd like a thorough explanation of why this is, leave a comment below, I'll make a video for it. The shorthand for this is that during the Renaissance and maybe leading up to the Mannerist period, black was a very useful color on the palette. Around the time of the Impressionists, that became replaced with colors like dark blue and violet. It had a lot to do with atmospheric color and atmospheric perspective. But getting back to the topic at hand, the way that black becomes useful in color mixtures is if we don't treat it as a darkening agent and we treat it as a toning agent. So what I first like to do is actually mix black into a grayscale and use those grays with my color mixture. These grays need to be mixed to the value of the color that you're going to add them to. So from a skill building standpoint, this is a really useful process because it's going to continually train you to see value in color. That is arguably the hardest or one of the hardest skills in painting. You can actually take this a step further if you turn your black into a neutral black. How we do that is by adding a little bit of burnt umber into our black. Most blacks are slightly cool and tend to lean towards blue. So if I was to add about 10 to 15% burnt umber to my ivory black, I will get a black that is completely achromatic and completely neutral in temperature. So I'm actually going to start with a cadmium yellow. This is ivory black and this is titanium white. If I am to mix a small amount of ivory black into this color, I can tone down its chroma, but we can also see that it starts to lean towards green. That means when I'm using black to tone down a color, I need to be very sparingly with it. Similarly, if I was to first make a gray out of my ivory black, what I've done here is mixed a gray that is close to the value of this cadmium yellow. And if I add a little bit of that gray to it, we can see it gets toned down again, but it still retains its yellow hue. More importantly, it actually retains a value similar to the original color. Now I'm going to use my natural black. Right off the bat, we can see that it's a little bit warmer than the ivory black. And if I were to make that similar gray, we can see how much cooler the ivory black is. Put our ivory black on here. It tends to be cooler. When we put our neutral gray on here, it tends to hold true to achromatic gray. As an aside, it's important to note that I am mixing a yellow that sits at a similar gray. We can see how it appears too dark, it appears too light, it's starting to blend in. So I have my neutral black, I have my neutral gray that is the value of my cadmium yellow. I'm going to go through the same process. A little bit of black to this yellow. We have a little bit truer color here. They both have been toned down with black. With the neutral black, there's a little bit cleaner yellow, and that's because the ivory black by itself tends to just lean blue a little bit, so there's a little bit more of a green tendency in this mixture. I'm gonna add gray now. It's the same value gray. And we have a similar effect. We get a nice colorful tone to our original cadmium yellow. It has a little bit more of a yellow tendency than to the ivory black mixture because of that blue tendency in this black. And we have clean, simple color mixtures. By utilizing a neutral black, mixing it down into grayscale as needed, and taking those specific values of the grayscale and adding them in small amounts to the color mixtures that I'm using, I can tone down very saturated colors into very simple, clean mixtures. This actually will give me cleaner, more simpler mixes of color, and my paintings will be more colorful.